Welcome back to the race for the White House. In the most coordinated financial policy action in history today, financial leaders around the world slashed interest rates to halt the global economic slide. Back on Wall Street, the markets closed down again after a day of wild swings. The Dow Jones Industrial down nearly 190 points. Back on the trail, voters are still wondering what each candidate plans to do to dig us out of our economic hole. Here with me now to outline John McCain's next move, Douglas Holtz-Eakin, senior economic advisor to the McCain campaign, and also with me here on the set, Dylan Ratigan, anchor of CNBC's Fast Money and The Call and Closing Bell. Douglas, thanks for joining us. First of all, do you think John McCain missed an opportunity to really, truly define his economic vision last night?
Oh, I think John McCain did a great job of talking to the American people about his record of reform in Washington, about his plans to take on the great homeownership problems that are facing Americans, to create jobs, take care of small business, and grow the economy. Barack Obama spent the night talking about running against George Bush. The only person in that arena who ever ran against George Bush was John McCain, and Barack might wish he was running against him, but he's going to have to, come up with a plan to beat John McCain.
Dylan.
Safe to say, considering unprecedented central bank action last night, market action not seen in 80 years' time, credit markets that are completely seized up, that the financial markets, and for that matter, the American people's tolerance for Harry Potter economics from anybody at this point is in effect gone. People want to know in specific what you are going to do. How is it you are going to deal with the bad debt that is on the balance sheets of these banks?
Well, we think that the right thing to do is to, number one, take a crack at putting some of the resources that Congress has already devoted to this task, basically almost $1 trillion at this point, and put that money straight into home ownership, make sure people stay in their homes, and by solidifying the value of some of these mortgages that would otherwise go into default, you solidify the valuation of the MBSs, and that has been a huge cancer on the balance sheets of lots of financial institutions.
You would specifically fund and rework the mortgage themselves on street level and deal with it on Main Street in an effort to then support the Wall Street aspect, which is the bonds that are backed by those mortgages. Is that correct?
Yes, that would be one part of the program. You know, a homeowner could raise their hand, basically go to a mortgage originator, a broker, and say, look, I need a refinance out of this McCain resurgence plan. The government would go in and buy out the existing mortgage. That takes that problem off the table entirely. Its value is no longer a mystery. Its weight is no longer bearing down on the homeowner.
That's $1 trillion, though, to the government. You realize that's $1 trillion. We don't know how much that problem will cost American taxpayers. You recognize that.
We know that we've already devoted resources at the federal level. We think that those resources ought to go to American homeowners and solve the financial stability problems that are clearly evident. I mean, the Fed did, I think, a remarkable job last night, and Senator McCain applauded their move. But these are all reactionary steps. We need to get ahead of this. This problem began in the housing finance sector. It needs to be solved in the housing finance sector, at least in part.
Well, some would argue that John McCain, Dylan, at least put some specifics out there last night, as opposed to Barack Obama, who did not so much. I want to show you now Barack Obama, though, on the campaign trail today, responding to John McCain's mortgage plan. Here is Obama on the trail. Oh, okay, I'm actually reading a full screen here. This is what Barack Obama said. John McCain wants the government to massively overpay for mortgages in a plan that would guarantee taxpayers lose money and put them at risk of losing even more if home values don't recover. The biggest beneficiaries of this plan will be the same financial institutions, Doug, that got us into this mess, some of whom even committed fraud. Is that the case? Do you agree?
Obviously, we don't agree. If Barack Obama wants to make the case that it's better to put this money into Wall Street, we're happy to have that debate. We think this is an effective way to solve two problems. Number one, the declining home ownership, the people in foreclosure, the kinds of bad blight problems that produces in neighborhoods. Number two, if you do this right, you can get interest rates down in the mortgage market, stabilize housing values, been a huge downdraft in the economy. And number three, put a floor under some of these housing-related securities. That's a big objective here.
And no one would not be in favor of that. It's just a matter of understanding that that is a multi-trillion-dollar problem. That the administration itself right now has made it very clear that the $700 billion is basically an estimate to try to restart a marketplace. What you are talking about, if I understand you correctly, Doug, could amount to $2, $3, $4 trillion in additional expense if, in fact, the housing market continues to depreciate at even half the rate that it has over the past year.
Here it goes. Go ahead, Doug.
Well, I think those numbers are a bit high, Dylan. I mean, I think the bottom line here is we know that there are about 10 million of the mortgages that are underwater out there. There are estimates of the negative equity that would be out there that range somewhere between the $300 and $600 billion mark. We're not going to have this be eligible to anyone. There's going to be an underwriting process that would screen out those who did not supply credit information at the original mortgage, those who weren't living in the home, it wasn't a primary residence. There are going to be sensible criteria to scale down which of that negative equity gets attracted to the program. And we're going to target the real needs, people who want to be in their home, are really struggling, and the fallout that has in the financial sector.
And Doug, finally, something I want to ask the panel about, but I wonder if your candidate missed an opportunity, not last night, but during the bailout vote, when he didn't hold folks on Capitol Hill there until they came up with a bill that had no pork in it, so it sounded like John McCain's bill.
Well, I tell you, it is hard for him to, in the end, see that kind of practice being jammed into a bill that he worked so hard to get relief to the financial markets. But this is a situation where, as president, he can make sure that never happens again. In the moment when the pressing needs are visible in financial markets, it was the wrong time to have them do that, but he felt the greater need was to get the bill through. He worked awfully hard to build a bipartisan process to get a bill through. What you're seeing with this proposal last night, the resurgence plan, is a continuing effort to shape the use of those resources in the most productive way for this economy.
All right, McCain's senior economic advisor, Douglas Holtz-Eakin, thank you very much for coming on the show tonight. Dylan, will you stick around?
For a moment, sure.
Stick around. We want to show you some live pictures right now. This is Democratic Vice President